Hi, I'm Andrew Halsman. I work at Family Tree Counseling Associates, and I'm entitling this video, Anger is a Two-Headed Dragon. Anger is two things, I think. One is reactive, and we all have seen reactive anger, and the other one is passive-aggressive anger, which is a little harder to see sometimes, but just as destructive. Anger is the way that we deal with when we're frustrated and we're scared and we're not getting what we want and we're embarrassed or we're shamed. People can be angry and they can show anger. Some people have a lot of trouble showing anger. In my experience as a therapist, people often don't define that they're angry. They'll say they're frustrated or they're irritated. But anger, sure enough, is an important emotion. It gets us what we need sometimes if we can be in control of it. But if we're out of control with anger, we push people away and we can ruin situations. We can lose jobs. We can, at the extreme, be arrested. But in most people, for anger, it comes out in relationships. Your intimate relationship, the special person in your life is going to bring up feelings, stronger feelings than anyone else, most likely, possibly with the exception of work at times, but there's a lot that is impossible to do at work without the fear of losing your job. So in relationships, those emotions come out, family relationships, intimate relationships. So like I said, there's reactive anger, and reactive anger is that explosive type where someone just gets reactive and gets extreme and yells and screams and says things often they don't mean, or says things that are buried inside that they do mean but under other circumstances wouldn't talk about. So that reactive anger is very scary. And if you live with a person or you are a person who is a reactive type angry person, that the person who lives with that person feels like they're walking on eggshells. The old kind of like scared to say this, scared to say that, kind of watching their words, editing what they're thinking about, because that person might at any moment blow and they might say things that are difficult, and it's going to bring up that fear that you're going to be hurt or you're going to be yelled at emotionally or physically, depending on the situation, of course. So reactive anger, and if you're a reactive anger is scary. If you're a person who is that type of reactive anger and you have any bit of insight, you're not happy with being that person who's reactive, and you may try to control it or try to stuff it or try to find ways to not be angry, and often you're not succeeding as well as you'd like to, because reactive anger surprises you and it comes up well, you shouldn't be not expecting it, but it does come up when you least expect it in a lot of ways, because you're trying to stuff it, and stuffing it, they've found out, they meaning people who study anger, stuffing it does not work very well, because you're just avoiding and avoiding and avoiding the feelings, and you're pushing them down, and you're either going to have physical symptoms or you're just going to let it build up and explode. So stuffing it is not so great. Sometimes expressing it is not so great, because you're expressing it and you're just getting angrier and angrier. So there is a third choice, of course, with anger, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. The other type of anger is the passive-aggressive anger. And if someone is uncomfortable due to their makeup or their family history with expressing their anger, or even being conscious of their anger, being aware of their anger, they might be doing it in passive-aggressive ways. And a passive-aggressive anger is where you're poking emotionally at the other person. So personally, I'm not so conscious of my anger. I'm not so comfortable with my anger. So if my wife does something that might upset me or irritate me, what I will do most likely, unless I catch myself, is do something where I'm poking back at her emotionally, saying something that's going to irritate her, that's going to bring out feelings, and then kind of like back off and say, oh, I didn't mean anything. I was just joking. And so I'm kind of running up and figuratively, not literally, poking at her and then backing off and saying, "Oh, it's all your fault," and that's pretty terrible in its own way. So if I'm conscious of it, if I'm conscious of my anger and I can talk about it and I can express it and I can say it in a way that's not reactive, because I'm not a person who's going to blow up normally, but if I can talk about it, then it's a fine conversation. My wife is okay with me saying that I'm angry. I'm okay with her saying that she's angry. But if she does it in a passive aggressive way or a reactive way, or I do it in a passive aggressive or a reactive way, then we're off to the races. We're just arguing with each other and we're kind of spinning out of control in a certain way. And that's not working very well. So that's the difficulty with expressing anger if you're not really cognizant of what's going on with you, and you're just reacting to the situation, either expressing it in, kind of by what has happened, what's been said, what's happening in the moment, and you're just getting it out, you're just venting. Well, that doesn't work very well, because the other person gets defensive, the other person feels embarrassed and shamed, and nothing really gets resolved. So to be the third choice in all of this, the way to really handle anger rather than stuffing it and letting it build and build and build until it explodes, or expressing it without any insight and any consciousness of kind of what's going on with you, and then just venting and killing everybody, again figuratively, killing everybody in your immediate radius by your words and the look on your face and how you're acting. Then the third choice is being able to talk about it or to lower the flame on it somehow by doing something else. I mean, that seems to work. So if you're angry, to be able to find something enjoyable in your life, to see the positive in your life, see the fun things. So if you're angry at your spouse, to be able to do something with them that's enjoyable, or talk about something that's fun, or watch a comedy, or enjoy yourself in some way, and that's going to lower the flame until you're able to talk about what's going on inside of yourself. If you're, like I said, if you have some insight and you have some consciousness of how you're feeling and what has affected you. So recently I was talking on the phone with my brother, and my wife said something to me and it made me angry, and then when I got off the phone I said something to her which was passive aggressive, and then she got irritated, and then I said, "Why are you getting irritated? I was just joking." Until it only took me a minute or two to realize, when you said that when I was on the phone with my brother, I was upset, and that helped, and then we were able to talk about it, because I admitted that what my real feeling was, as opposed to, again, figuratively poking at her and then going, "I didn't do anything, why are you reacting that way?" And that's my difficulty with anger. The passive aggressive type, I don't generally explode. That's a very rare thing for me, but it can happen, if it builds up long enough. So this is my anger as a two-headed dragon. One is the reactive side, and the other is the passive-aggressive side. And I believe the best way to handle it is to, if you are well therapized and you can kind of pay attention to what you're feeling, take some time, come back, talk about what's going on with yourself. So that's why I was saying, even if you're not stuffing it or not venting it, what you're doing is you're kind of finding a way to make yourself relax and enjoy yourself for a little bit, and think about what's going on with you and think about how you're feeling. Then the next part of that is to be able to talk with the person who you've exploded on or were passive aggressive towards. So there's two parts to that. It's not just avoiding it by doing something to have fun. It's then having some ability to think and have some insight and talk about with the person or the people who you've offended or who you've hurt in some way about yourself. So it's taking some responsibility. A truly independent, individualized person is responsible for their own feelings. And anger is a difficult one. Like I said, most people don't admit to being angry. They talk about it in different ways. So this is my video. Thank you for listening. Anger is a Two-Headed Dragon is the title. I'm Andrew Halsman of Family Tree Counseling Associates. My number is 317-457-8668. I can also be reached at aholzman2@comcast.net. That's AHOLZMAN2@comcast.net. Appreciate you listening, and talk to you again soon, I hope.